We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The board wants to provide ample opportunity for public comment on matters that come before us. Your input is important. If you wish to address an item already on the agenda, we ask that you do so when that item comes up for discussion. If you have a comment on a matter not on the agenda, this is the time during our meeting for such comments. The board would like to remind everyone in attendance that to avoid violations of individual rights of privacy, a member of the public wishing to address the board during this time will not be allowed to make comments on any student, staff member, or member of the general public. Does anyone wish to speak at this time? Okay. Recognition of individuals and correspondence. You have Dick Anderson on there.
Yeah, we received a nice thank you note from Cheyenne, and just wanted to say our appreciation to her and the Dick Anderson team as well, as they have done a great job for us and they're packing up. And so we've been saying our goodbyes and been getting thank you cards, and they said they just really appreciated getting to be on site here in Townsend working with all of us. So we've had a great working relationship with them, and we're lucky to have our project managers as local citizens of Townsend. So it's been really great.
Discussion items, elementary building project. Shane had to get down the road tonight. Not a whole lot to report on. The 2 classroom addition is on schedule and going well. You can see the siding is going up on the outside. They're painting. They've got the first coat painted on the inside of those classrooms. They'll start hanging the ceiling tiles, I think he figured next week. Other than that, they're doing a lot of cleanup and touch up in some other areas. We did get the removable partition finally that goes between that elementary music room and the commons that we were waiting on. That looks really nice, and does a nice job of protecting or stopping the sound both ways. That got done this weekend. The HVAC crew was in and got the one boiler pump and valve installed in the high school this weekend that they weren't able to do earlier. Once the classroom is sided on the outside, then they will kind of bring in the landscaping guys to finish up their end of the project, which will take into some into the summer some. The playground, the remaining playground equipment should start going up hopefully before too long. They're going to seal coat the asphalt that's on the basketball courts in that area. Sometime they're going to have to figure out when. It'll probably be over a weekend. I think that was about it for what we talked about today. Still hunting down, some HVAC control issues, but I think they're getting those narrowed up. Now that it's gotten warm, now they've found some classrooms that got hotter than others where it was colder earlier, so they're working through those issues. But, we'll do a bigger walkthrough in June after everybody's gone, kind of a 1-year type warranty look at things to make sure anything that's not functioning gets taken care of before they do totally leave the area.
So everything we finish up pretty much by school time.
Pretty close. The landscapers, and there'll be some things that carry on into the summer. But yeah, by the end of the school year, there's not going to be much left.
Oh, thank you. Yes,
I think everybody's very pleased, but we'll be very happy when they're done and gone. Okay, upcoming events. I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, so our special school board meeting to go over our insurance options for healthcare insurance is Thursday, April 13th, this Thursday. We're starting that meeting earlier so just want to remind you all of that. From 4 to 5, we will have presentations. We will have 2 providers present rates, and then we had 3 providers get rates for us. We have narrowed it down to 2, and they'll present their rates. And then we also have 1 broker that wants a few minutes to discuss what they can do for us that represents many other schools in the state. So she will speak briefly as well. And then we'll have some discussion time with the teachers organization, between the teachers organization and the board, so we can select the insurance company we want to move forward with. So that's the plan for Thursday night. That will happen earlier in the evening because I believe the Teachers Association has a candidate forum that night. The special school board meeting regarding the calendar decisions, 4-day school schedule, we are working on dates for that. Mr. Chairman, do you have anything to add on that note? Do you want me to talk about the survey data at that point, or potential dates?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the survey closes on the 20th, and it'll take 2 to 3 days for us to get the survey data back. And it is kind of tricky with it being over a weekend. The 24th seemed like one of the best dates. I know we were really hoping not to go into May because we have high school schedules to get done, and the calendar, everyone's antsy to get completed. So we were hoping to get that done as soon as possible. So we were considering the 24th. May 8th was the last date. And then there was a couple others in there. Were there any other that seemed like good possibilities?
The 24th and the 8th seem like the really only 2 possibilities. It's going to work for the majority of the board and the administration to participate in that. So it will likely be one of those 2 days.
Okay. So we will work on that. And then we have also been discussing scheduling a transportation meeting with the county. So we
Actually, I wanna
will,
go back.
yeah.
You were done with that one?
Mhm.
Okay, we had one question.
Yeah, I was wondering as far as what good faith efforts you guys have made to get the survey out. Aside from the school website, because maybe not a ton of people are always looking at the school website. Have you reached out into the community via other advertisements, or my phone rings every time there's a negative lunch balance several times through members of the household? Would you be willing to do something more like that?
It should be going out through Infinite Campus to,
Yes.
am I correct?
I've already received mine through the campus.
Yeah. I was thinking
A
Luke.
phone call, or the email, an email, okay, okay.
So everyone tied to the school system, I believe, should get a notification in their email, correct?
All parents.
All
Mhm.
parents, yeah. And then, yeah, we're hoping that, it was also sent out on social media to provide, opportunities to go find that link. But eventually they have to get to the school website to
Sure,
hit the actual link.
thank you.
And then Nancy with the newspaper here with MT43 News has put it out. I know you called me yesterday about getting information out about it that got sent today, I believe, for the upcoming paper.
We're going to try to run the entire survey on one page.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. So people can take a look at see what it looks like. Okay.
Not just parents then, that'd be all the public.
Yeah, it's a parent community survey.
Oh, yeah, and staff. There's one for staff
Yeah,
as
there's
well.
one specific for the staff.
And one for
Staff,
parents and community.
parent community
Yep.
members is separate.
And then one of the questions that came up was, well, how will you know that people don't put in 2 or 3 surveys? How do you count that? Well, we figured out that you have to put your name and your address and your contact amount on the survey. That's at the top of the survey, is that correct?
Yeah, and that's why we chose to go through MTSBA with the survey, because they had the ability to track that, so that basically each household should get one opportunity to fill out the survey. So it can't be manipulated by multiple entries from a single individual.
But if they fill out the survey via the hard copy, not the e-edition, the hard copy, they're gonna have to send it or bring it or something.
I don't think that's an option. It has to be done online.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're analyzing the data for us as well. So it will all be done digitally.
And that's right in the survey itself. I didn't look at it, so.
Yeah, if you click, yep, so all that will be done. And then that's what we were talking about. We'd like to get the results and have that presentation of the results and the decision-making happen as soon as possible so we can get the calendar and everything rolling for school next year. But it will take 2 to 3 days for MTSBA, who did the survey for us, to get that information back to us, because there are comment boxes where people could write in. So that takes a little more time than just clicking a button and having the graphs come out of like a Survey Monkey survey, right? And then it is the same company. MTSBA has been doing these surveys throughout the state for multiple schools who are under the same considerations as we are. So that's why we went with them, because they have already been doing this across the state. So hopefully they have the bugs worked out for those double entries and those kinds of potential issues. And then Mr. Ravendall, did you put the blurb in that I sent you the week before about the upcoming survey as well? I'm not sure if you were able to get that into your paper. Okay.
Never got anything, ma'am.
I sent that the
I
week
apologize
before.
if I missed it, but I.
That's okay. I'll get that to you as well. Yeah, that's the goal is, we wanted to get the word out through whichever medias we could
I
in
also
town.
did find some things like on social media.
Okay.
Kind of help.
Yeah, I thought I sent you the same thing as
Trying to make
Nancy,
sure that I
so.
help you folks get that information out on this survey. This is really in our book is a priority.
Great. I can send you that information that I typed up again, for sure. So, and then, yeah, we're hoping word of mouth really helps, and, but we'll continue to send out messages through Infinite Campus that reach all the parents, and use our social media and our newspapers.
I'll add a little quick clarification on that meeting, just because I know there's been a little confusion. That meeting that we're talking about, whether it ends up being on the 24th or the 8th, that will be a special board meeting specifically to address the potential of a change to a 4-day school. That meeting will be different than the ones, if any of you participated at the strategic planning meeting, which is a much different. This will be a much more structured board type meeting. We will open that meeting with that survey information, and we'll discuss that survey information and what comes from it. Then there will be an opportunity for public comment and public participation, but it will probably be you'll have a certain amount of time, and each individual will have, 3 minutes, for example. It won't be a back and forth. It's not going to be a debate. It's not really going to be an open question and answer. It will be an opportunity for comments to be from the public. Then the board will take an opportunity and present their comments. And at the conclusion of all that, then the board will make a formal decision on that. But that will be the structure of that meeting, and that's why it needs to be a special meeting. We can't do a topic of that magnitude with our regular board meeting. We'd be here till 2 o'clock in the morning. So, like I said, we will, as soon as we get that date finalized, we will get that out. But those are most likely the 2 potential dates for that.
Just one quick follow-up question. So that the closing on the survey is what date?
The 20th.
The 20th. Thank you.
If I could add just a little bit for the papers, for you folks with the papers, you were mentioning wanting to put the whole survey in there. I think it's really important to just make sure everyone knows that it has to be digital and how to get to the site. So I wouldn't want it to a paper copy to create the false impression that you can fill it out, from that. So that's all.
Well, thank you for pointing that out. I'm only the messenger. I don't know what the layout person did. So our deadline was today at noon. And so, but I'll talk to her early in the morning and say, what does it look like? What does it say? Thank you though for pointing that out.
A follow on that, I don't want to take any more time with you folks. You got it on your agenda, but I got a lot of people that are saying, what do we do if we don't have access to online? What do we do? How do we participate in this if we're not, a lot of people are not having time or access to internet to get online. So is there an alternative option for those folks to weigh in?
So you can access it through any cell phone, those links through any cell phone. So almost everybody has a data plan. Almost everybody has a data plan on their cell phone these days. And then, of course, we have the computers in the library, and we can even help make sure you get to the right spot.
All right, thank you.
And we have the community library open into the evening, so.
Again, it's a question that's been.
Yep, evenings and weekends. Yep, we can help folks take that survey in the library.
Thank you. Now,
All right. So next up, we were going to talk about the annual transportation meeting, which we hold with the county. And Jeremy Rice is here to help me lead that discussion. You want to go ahead and start us off?
So per OPI standards, we have to have a transportation committee to finalize routes. I believe it's in June. I haven't looked at the standard exactly, and then finalized in August, September funding. So what I'd like to do is get that meeting scheduled sometime in June, so that we have a couple months to send correspondence out to parents, folks that have questions or need things addressed as far as bus routes go. And then in June, we can do our preliminaries for that, and then filter through July, August, and September, August to finalize all that stuff. And I have the forms, I guess, that we approved earlier this year that I can send out to folks so we can have copies of everything of what they want to see changes up.
So we have Sean and Vanessa that will need to be available for the transportation meeting.
Those could change.
That's true, if the assignments change. So if we want to continue thinking about that, and then or we can go ahead and pick a date and hope we can make it work, Jeremy. So our board meeting in June is the 13th. So if there's anything we would want to.
I don't know if it could piggyback on that. We could do that if that's the case. It just might be a little bit more extended, depending on the request that we get and the changes that are presented.
Right. I would recommend we do it in
So,
advance.
Yeah.
So even like June 12th or June 8th.
Yeah, the only thing we have is our bus conference is the 22nd to 23rd.
Okay.
So all of us drivers will be gone, but you just need to be here. Yeah,
Okay.
If you want to let me know, that's great, and then I'll put something out so that parents can start to get some feedback to me.
Okay, I'll reach out to the county and see if we can shoot for the 8th or the 12th. So if we have something to take to the board, we'll be ready by the 13th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you confirm your bus conference again, Jeremy? When is it?
The 21st, 22nd, 23rd is the annual training conference for all of us up in Great Falls.
I ran into that summer camp last year, so I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no out of town trips
Yeah,
those
no, right.
days.
Good,
Awesome.
It does come up. There is 2 that can't go full-time, so
Okay,
if you need something, I can get you the names of who will be here, so.
perfect, thank you.
And thank you for our ongoing partnership. It's been incredible this school
Yes,
year.
Things have been
So,
going great, and again, Christina's been great with this bus. It's been really good working through that, so thank you.
yeah,
Yeah,
It's a daily event.
it is a daily event, lots of good times.
thank you for your flexibility. Okay, and then other committee meetings. So negotiations so far we have set for the 18th. However, Mr. Chairman and I have been discussing whether that would be possibly changed because of the calendar discussion, or if we want to keep that date to continue working on our CBA language and different components. There's just a lot that would have to change in the contracts and in the CBA if the calendar does change. So we'll have to just keep that in mind as we're working, if we think we have enough still to work on the 18th or not. So we have that set aside for now. For the facilities, I would like to propose the 13th of June that we get together before the board meeting. We really need to look at our rentals and our priorities for the rental properties and do a walkthrough in those and get some work done before the end of the fiscal year if possible. Some new windows and some things like that. So I would like to schedule that prior to the board meeting that Tuesday, the 13th of June. The calendar meeting and 4-day discussion would be the 24th or the 8th, like we discussed, and we have the insurance for the 13th. So the only one I don't have a date for right now is the activities. And I don't know if the technology committee has a date coming up or not.
Really trying to get one.
Okay.
Getting difficult with all of our.
Yeah, it's getting to be that time of year.
We usually, I'm not sure we're gonna go in April, but we will definitely try to schedule one for May so that we can have some, things discussed before we roll into summer like we usually do.
Excellent. And then we have the community survey update. We already talked about that quite a bit. I don't know if anybody has any other information to add to that. Okay.
So I just that, when you spoke to the MDSBA folks, they were talking about a 2 to 3 day turnaround time,
Mm-hmm.
probably excluding the weekend. Not including the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'd be looking at Tuesday or
It closes on
Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah, and they said about 2 days. So I don't know, and I don't know if they could start earlier with the text boxes, and then do the rest of them as they came in, or what we
That'd be
could do.
probably problematic.
Yeah.
Because then you have to do it all over again. Then you get some more results and you do it all over again. So.
We'll get it ironed out.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, hopefully,
Yeah.
we'll get that date.
Yep. We'll just have to ask them what deadline would be possible or not, and what they'll agree to. So.
Okay. Question?
There's a question.
A quick question, is the survey online now available to take the survey, or is it, okay,
Yep, it's
It went
open.
live Friday afternoon.
okay, I'm sorry, because I didn't see that until.
No problem.
Okay, moving on. Consent action items, minutes and warrants.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve consent action items as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent action items as presented. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. First action item, appoint Prickly Pear Co-op Board Representative.
Okay, so this is just an annual paperwork appointment that we do. This document approves me to be appointed to represent us on the Prickly Pear Co-op Board. They are our special ed co-op that we participate in with our neighboring school districts to make sure that we can offer services such as PT and speech and school psychology, and some of those that would be hard for one small district to fund a position of on their own. So we participate in that co-op so we can provide those services to all of our students with our neighboring districts. And I attend those meetings regularly.
I move to appoint Superintendent Henlon as the co-op board representative beginning July 1, 2023.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Superintendent Susie Hedlund as the co-op board representative beginning July 1, 2023. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passed. Approved to dispose of special education records.
This is another house cleaning item. We have records that are ready for disposal upon your approval.
And how many years is that? Different records require a different number of, require us to maintain them in-house for a certain number of years. For these, how many years?
Students that have been out for at least 5 years.
Okay, so it's a 5-year, okay, it's a 5-year. Okay. I move to approve the destruction of special education speech language therapy records.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the destruction of special education speech language therapy records. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passed. Approve statement of work contract for Brittany Graham, teacher of the deaf.
We were really excited to find a teacher of the deaf nearby that was willing to contract with us. Her documentation is included, and we would really like to get started working with her. We've talked about her at prior meetings. This is just bringing her full contract before you. So she helps support us in working with our deaf student and supporting the teachers and making sure the educational material is it makes it so that he can access the educational material. So we have students that this is a huge impact on, and we're really excited to have Brittany be available. This is just part-time, very, very part-time, and she's out of Belgrade and does most of it over tele, so most of it over Zoom, but is able to come without it being too far if needed.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the statement of work for Brittany Graham as presented.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the statement of work for Brittany Graham as presented. Is there any discussions?
I have a question. Are you able to say how many students she serves in this district?
No, I'm not. If their number is less than 10 in a school district, we don't
That's fine.
state the data according to state law. So,
Thank you.
yes.
Any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Approve the statement of work contract for Ann Garfinkel, behavior consultant.
So I do not have Anne's full documentation yet. She is traveling. I did reach out to her again today, but this is the gal that we talked about consulting with and came highly recommended to us. So I would appreciate your approval of her beginning to work with us, pending your approval of her contract, or however you may feel you can allow us to move forward. I know Todd likes to see those contracts, and I understand the importance of that.
Cross the i's and dot the t's.
Maybe we can include it in a special meeting.
Perfect.
And with the upcoming meetings,
Yeah, that's a good idea, Kevin.
Yeah, 'cause it would just be conceptual.
Okay.
When do you, and I agree, I was just curious, when do you think you'll get the documentation and people work from Ann?
I don't know.
Okay.
I followed up with her again today. So, yeah, she is a hot commodity all over the state. She's working in Three Forks and Anaconda. And so we were lucky to get on her schedule. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we'll pass consideration on that item and move into the approve the fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22 Denning, Downing and Associates audit.
So you have been presented with the audit report, and I have gone over that with you. Our chairman sat through the audit presentation with the clerk and I would ask that you approve the audit as presented. And this is something that the school does regularly to make sure that we are in good financial standing. And we do present the information, obviously, to the banks and to the state agencies as needed.
I'll move to approve the fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22 audit reports as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22 audit reports as presented. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you for sitting through that. On behalf of those meetings. Appreciate that.
It's actually good. He's very informative and does a good job of walking through and explaining that. So it's not bad.
Yeah, it's helpful. We learn areas we can tighten up on procedures and practices and just how we can do things a little better each time. So
Okay, so now we removed those prom and graduation.
yeah, so now that we're no longer in COVID, we don't need to have a formal prom and graduation proposal. Prom is the 29th of April and graduation is May 21st, and it's back to how you all used to remember it. So that is the plan for prom and graduation.
Okay.
So we don't
Is
need.
there, no, we don't need.
We don't need any action
I think
taken
those are
today.
on there because when we had those few years where we were
Yeah.
having to.
Reduce-
I wasn't sure if you guys wanted to
Yes.
Did you have-
approve anything formally.
Yeah, no, we're just rolling as regular. They're in the throes of getting all ready for prom, so we're excited about that. And then graduation's on track. Mr. Zicken and I are working on getting that all ready and organized, and we're doing well. So we missed Mrs. Audette with the graduation planning, but she's a phone call away. So no, we're doing well. Everything's on track and doing great. Mr. Zicken's working hard.
Very good. Okay. So with that, we'll move into the approval of the 23 spring senior party proposal. And I do believe we have some presentation for that.
Yeah,
So that's.
so the seniors' parents would like to request that we are able to use the school facility for the senior all-night party, which is an overnight party that happens the night after graduation. Historically, it has been held in the school building until the last class that used the school building was 2019. 2020, of course, they didn't have an all-night party. 2021, they chose to go elsewhere to do something different other than an all-night party. The class of 22 did request the use of the school facility and were denied, and so they chose to use the fairgrounds. And we would like to request to use the school facility because the fairgrounds are now under construction and we're unable to use that space. We feel like the school facility is a good location as far as parents have to come and pick up the kids. That's mandatory for parents to pick up the kids the next morning. We've got some activities planned that will need a larger gym space. We're having an escape room come in and they're setting up an escape room and some blow up items and things. So the gym would be the ideal space to use that. So Mrs. Hebron did have some concerns about the use of the property and we definitely respect that. So I gave you a map to show what we'd like to use and what doors we will keep locked or closed, locked or closed. We'll have 6 to 8 chaperones at all times, moving throughout the areas where the kids will be. This will be the 64 gym and the foyer. We would like to request use of the home ec room, just in case we need to make pizzas or something, whatever we decide to provide for food. So that would just be 1 or 2 chaperones that would use that area, and then we serve food out of the concession. So we would like this to be a board decision so that it can, the decision is made for future years as well, so that future senior parents can just have that decision made.
And we do have parents, teacher, John Odell, that we will do the final walkthrough in the morning, making sure there's no damage. So any funds that the students would be receiving when they leave, if there is anything that needs to be taken care of, that will come out of their immediate funds before they are released to their parents.
And they'll be told that ahead of time.
Yeah, yep, so they're all aware, and John is willing to take on the responsibility for doing the walkthrough and making sure everything is as it should be.
I've been in communication with the sheriff's office. They're gonna do breathalyzers when the kids get to the school. We'll do bag checks, and then the sheriff's office will make a couple of rounds throughout the night too, so hopefully we'll keep the kids in their best behavior.
I should have, do you have their names for your minutes? Would you guys state your names just so I can?
I'm Emma Spurlock.
Did you make sure to use, okay, thank you.
Okay. So I guess, is there a motion first of all?
I'll move to approve the 2023 spring, let's see, where are we at? Move to approve the 2023 spring senior party proposal. Yes, it was thorough presentation, or thorough preparation, and a thorough plan.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2023 spring senior party proposal. Is there any discussion?
Evan, you had some concerns?
Yeah, we've talked about, and obviously this is not a personal thing by any, we've had lots of incidences in the past year since my first year here, and I think it was 14, 15. Just, lots of senior pranks, lots of damage. The last one that occurred, they taped all the lockers shut, and it took all the paints off the lockers when we tried to get that removed. We got to spend Monday mornings putting the entire school back together, so we couldn't engage in any of our academic stuff we needed to get done. Just a lot of different things, and they're well aware, and I just want to commend the senior parent group this year on really putting together a well thought out, we support these activities for all kids and all students. It just became so problematic with being able to enforce. It's a horrible building to supervise and chaperone. It's terrible. It's really tough. So many nooks and crannies, so many doors, so many hallways, it's tough and rough. And in a way, the thought was to make it easier even on the parents as well, so there's not so much chaperoning, responsibility as far as facility and that way. And now that the entire building is connected, hopefully we'll be able to mitigate that should the board decide to go ahead and grant the parent facility. That's what they want. Those are, it's just a long history of a lot of damage and all in good fun, not necessarily, being terrible where kids try to be bad. It's just been kind of a tough role for the last 9 years, quite honestly, except for the years when I didn't have it here, so.
We're still finding those plastic babies they put out.
Oh, I know.
2019.
Now, the babies were funny, and they do pop up. I find some in my office still. I'm not even sure how they got in there, but yeah, so. Like I said, it's nothing meant to be malicious or anything like that. It's just a difficult area to supervise and take care of, so yeah. That's really it.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, I think this is an important event for the kids, and I think it's important that it's held in a safe, secure environment. And, this really is about the only option. The fairgrounds work, but there was, it was a questionable facility because of where it was and access outside. So I think it is important that the school be here, or the kids be in the school. But with that said, I think the chaperones are a critical part of this because, we can't barricade doors and we can't lock doors, or pretty soon we got, a fire hazard. So it takes adult supervision and responsible supervision to make sure that, kids will be kids, but, we or you guys have to do your part to make sure that the facility is not damaged in any way. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passed. All right. Thank you very much for your time and your
Good luck.
Please communicate with me for anything that you need on our end. Thank you.
All right, moving on into personnel, we have some resignations.
Yes, and I will be reading off of mine, which is the most up-to-date. The one you received in the mail may have had there's maybe been some changes since, so Just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. So I would ask for your approval of resignations on, sorry, let me get to the right page here. We have our after-school program tutor Cassidy Driscoll, activity bus driver Don Crossler, cheer coach Lori Hansen, and our Broadwater High School close-up advisor Denise Bockham.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the resignations as presented.
Second.
Should there be one more? Or paraprofessional? Ms. Driscoll,
Yeah, I put,
you put her as.
oh, after school. Oh, and paraprofessional. Sorry. Yes, thank you. Cassidy for both para and after school.
I don't have the para one.
That's
It's
okay.
been moved and seconded to approve the resignations as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Employment.
Okay, for the remaining of this school year and summer, we have the employment for 22-23 for summer camp program with Sherry Toney, after school program tutor Scarlett McDaniel, after school program tutor Whitney Robertson, substitute ASL interpreter Graciana Olds, and substitute teacher Shannon Walker. If you would please approve the hires as presented pending their background checks.
I move to approve the hires as presented pending background checks.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the hires as presented pending background checks. Is there any discussion?
Can I ask what the acronym of ASL is?
American Sign Language?
Thank you.
Any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Contract. Further contract.
Okay, so I also have a few notes on my list that you have before you. So mine might have a couple slight changes, but you have the general list. So hopefully this year with the list that Donna in the office and Casey and everyone helped us create, I can do this more productively than last year. All right, so.
Actually, we'll still need to do that first special education one separate.
Oh, sorry. I got excited about my big spiel here. Okay. So for employment for the following school year, we are very excited for 23-24. As you know, we've had an open special education teaching position for a year that we have a local applicant for. So Morgan Nunn, I would recommend for the position of special education teacher. She will be focusing on filling our pre-K through second grade spot.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the hire of Morgan Nunn as special education teacher for the 2023-24 school year.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the hire of Morgan Nunn as special education teacher for 2023-2024 school year. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Okay, now you can.
Okay, here we go.
Second. There was a second.
Nope.
No, there's not a second one. Okay. Okay, so that's,
That one.
okay, all right.
Okay, so we will get into our list. So we have contract renewal for certified teachers. I have Laura Ashman, Allison Bockham, Denise Bockham, Brittany Bancroft, Jeremy Bartlett, Gary Bowman, Darlene Beck, Megalie Bellinger, non-tenure, Megan Bliley, Jamie Cameron, Carrie Eichinger, Elise Estrada, non-tenure, Terry Fisher, Madison Floating, non-tenure, Jill Flynn, Kelsey Flynn, Chris Gillespie, Shayna Gillespie, Kim Gilligan, Angela Giono, Wendy Wendy Gravely, Emily Herrider, non-tenure, Motley Hanson, Daniel Hazlett, Tanner Hoff, non-tenure, Jennifer Hoppy, Joe Horn, Ann Ingram, Diana Kirkpatrick, non-tenure, Ashley Kruger, non-tenure, Allie Lampman, Lisa Larson, David Lawson, Jamie Lawson, Gemma Lockery, Mara McDonald, Olga McNulty, non-tenure, Lindsay Moldenhauer, John Odell, Tyler Patrick, non-tenure, Missy Rock, Travis Rock, Rao. Sorry, thank you. Got rolling. Carly Reese, non-tenure, Mike Schnittgen, Alan Severide, Sarah Schaefer, Anna Shearer, James Schindel, Dana Tuffelmeyer, Andrea Tulos, non-tenure, Levi Van Zee, Brady Watkins, non-tenure, and Clint Watson.
Okay,
I-
okay.
And that concludes the list. I don't have anybody up for tenure this year.
So I move to approve the rehiring of certified personnel as presented.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve rehire of certified personnel as presented. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Contract non-renewal.
I would recommend Vicki Parker for non-renewal of a certified teacher for the coming school year.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the non-renewal of contract with Vicki Partners.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the non-renewal of certified personnel with Parker. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. We don't have anybody up for tenure. So then we go to contract renewal classified.
All right. So we have Terry Arts, Corey Backham, Gail Blair, Luke Carr, Tamara Christensen, Teresa Connor, Donna Cutshaw, Simone Dominguez, Danielle Douglas, Allison Ferreira, Laura Frazier, Joe Gill, Tom Graham, Caitlin Hahn, Vicki Harvey, Linda Kent, Chelsea Landers, Tansy McDaniel, John Bernard, Wanda Moldenhauer, Richard Neighbor, Stephen Nelson, Stephen Oja? Oj. Megan Osborne, Travis Reagan, James Riddle, Sheila Rivera, Nicole Sandage, Ed Schindel, Sandra Spidell, Vicki Thomason, April Toll, Sherry Toney, Pamela Watson, Cynthia Wheeling, Casey Williams, and Tim Williams.
I move to approve the rehiring of classified personnel.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the hire of personnel. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. A contract renewal for fall and winter sports activities.
Okay, and mine is just, I'm going to have a couple of slight changes as I go through the list you have before you. So bear with me. My notes are just a little bit different than what you have presented. Okay, so for our 23-24 extracurricular and other activities, I have junior high football, Justin Hovland and Gary Bowman. Junior high cross country, Daniela Reagan. High school cross country, Brooke Dolan. Head high school football, Travis Rao. Additional high school football coaches, Justin Sell, Josh Leonard, Dan Hazlett, and Joe Horn. High school volleyball, Megan Bliley, Elisa Estrada, and Jenny Lee Bird. Junior high volleyball, Kayla Rube and Jeremiah Rube. Junior high girls basketball, I have one vacancy and Courtney Johnson. High school girls basketball, I have David Lawson and Kevin Reed. Vacancy on cheerleading. For fall play, I have Denise Bockham. Speech and drama, I have Denise Bockham and Allie Lampman. Junior high boys basketball, I have Gary Bowman. High school wrestling, I have a vacancy on head coach. I have Mike Schnittgen, James Ruckert, and Harry Hall. On high school boys basketball, I have head coach Tyler Patrick and Coach Kirk Flynn. On public librarian, I have Angela Giono. Junior high wrestling, I have Harry Hall and John Odell. Winter cheerleading, I have a vacancy. Athletic director, I have Mr. John Odell. Spring play, we don't need to do that yet. And so we will save that one. On National Honor Society, I have Laura Ashman. And then we will go down to concessions for Brittany Bancroft. I have a vacancy on pep band at this time. For the yearbook, we have Joe Horn. For student council, we have Allie Lampman. For FCCLA, we have Carly Reese. Skills USA, Clint Watson. And for BPA, we have Joe Horn. For FFA, we have Gemma Lockery. For Egg Extra, Gemma Lockery. Counselor Extra Duty, we have Mike Schnittgen. For Summer Drivers Ed Instruction, we have a vacancy. For dual credit statistics course, we have Laura Ashman. Dual credit algebra, Laura Ashman. And dual credit writing, Darlene Beck. We are looking into potential additional dual credit courses. Ms. Heverin and I will keep you posted on.
Did I miss one for high school? I was just kind of crossing off.
No, some of them were intentionally missed that we're waiting for confirmation on our different information.
Okay, so you're waiting, okay, so on the list, you're waiting for confirmation.
Mhm.
Okay. I didn't miss them, it just wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay. I move to approve the hiring of the fall and winter extracurricular contracts for the 23-24 school year.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the fall and winter extracurricular activities individuals as presented. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. So we don't have any non-renewals, correct?
Correct.
And those, yeah. The last one was included. Okay, all right. Through all that.
Much better than I did last year. All right.
Moving on to policy.
Okay.
Updated and revised Townsend K12 policy manual.
Yes, thank you. I appreciated our vice chair recommending that we make sure we had those front and center for the public. So they've been on the front of our website and out to our staff for a month so that everyone had a chance to review those. The board and myself spent the year going through every single policy one by one and making sure that they were up to date, current, and relevant for Townsend School District. And we did that. We worked through that process with NTSBA, with Chris Goss specifically, who is a policy genius. And now that it's all up and edited, it will be held in a spot where anybody can access it through a link, and it will always be up to date and current. So at every meeting, we'll update certain policies, make sure, especially, coming out of legislative session, that we have everything up to date, and those will always be updated. And that service will be ran by them, by MTSBA. And they do that service for most districts in the state for a fee, and it's just really important to keep all of our policies correct. They also help us then to make sure that our policies align with our handbooks and all of that other information. So parents and community members and staff and all of us, I use the policies daily to do my job, obviously, and it'll be just really nice to have them in one searchable area and have them accurate and up to date. So I thank the board for all of their work and time. It was a lot of time and effort put into all of that, but I think it'll be really important for us moving forward. And Chris Goss was really helpful. So now that we've had that out there in front and center, I would appreciate the approval to move forward so we can get that live on the web.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the updated revised Townsend School District Policy Manual on second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the updated and revised Townsend School District Policy Manual on second reading. Is there any discussion?
I would just add to the folks, there's probably 100, 150, maybe 200 policies. So there is just a scat full of policies to go through. And four different sessions, was it? 4 different sessions, 5 different sessions, of about 2-3 hours a night. So it was a boatload for sure. So thanks everybody for all the work that you did on that. That's all I wanted to share, just so you understand the scale of it.
Discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Tim had a question, sorry.
Just to follow up on the point that was just made. I went through, looking through some of that the last few days, just trying to get my brain wrapped around that, I will say. And I really don't even have a clue how many pages you guys have, because pages aren't numbered, but there's a lot of different sections.
About 800, give or take.
800,000?
No, 800.
About 800 pages.
Yeah, I have a hard copy. I have 2 hard copies, one that we will bring to the board meetings once it's approved. And then I have one up at the office that can be checked out for some reading material. And it's 3 of the big binders. So it's a stack about that big.
Totally understand it.
And it's sectioned out if anybody needs to utilize it, like you said, that may not have the internet, or, somebody can come into the front office and request to look through a hard copy of the policy books. And we'll have them at the board meetings as well.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Okay, I'm going to skip down one and then we'll come back. So with that, we need to approve the termination of the emergency policies related to COVID-19.
I move to approve the termination of the emergency COVID policies.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the termination of the emergency COVID policies. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, motion passed. Okay, now back. Policy 3510, school-sponsored activities. We brought this up, well, it's been brought up a couple times. We brought it up last month. There were only 2 board members present, plus Kevin was on remote, and it just didn't feel like the right time for 2 board members to make this decision. And we had time prior to prom, which is one of the big activities in question. So we tabled that discussion decision until tonight, when we have a much fuller house, and I appreciate that. So we will again address that activity policy. I don't know how much we need to start. I'll let Susie.
Okay, so on this policy 3510, which is included in your packet, it has been questioned as to whether or not the inclusion of homeschool students being allowed to participate in our school-sponsored MHSA designated sports and activities also includes school dances. And there has been different discussion about that. Different districts have handled it different. And so we just need the board to make a determination. And in the past, the conversations have ranged from, do we allow guests at all? Do we allow homeschool guests, out-of-district guests, what kind of students are we allowing to participate in our school-sponsored dances or other activities. So I know that Ms. Heverin has provided documentation and some thoughts from the high school in the past, and I know that different board members have spoken out. I'm not sure where we want to move from there, kind of to get back into the discussion. If you want to go through the contract and look at the language and definitions, or what different board members' thoughts may be.
Mr. Olson has some comments.
For the most part, there actually was more to the amendments to the policy because the 2021 legislature passed a couple of bills. They passed Senate Bill 157, Senate Bill 72, which codified the flexibility for homeschool students, non-district students to participate in district sanctioned events. They defined in Senate Bill 157, which actually was codified in the code, that, we're talking about sanctioned activities and like approved CT clubs and things like that. So the majority of the underlying section in the policy revolves around that, also revolves around federal compliance with the Supreme Court opinion that came down a couple of years ago. So for us, the issue of attendance by non-school students, kids in the community to attend social events is isolated to section 2 of the policy. It's actually 2D, which is present between lines 25 and 27. And so as it currently states, and as the model policy through MTSBA, it says that attendance at this high school events and dances should be limited to high school students and middle students. Social events shall be limited to middle school students unless prior permission is received from the principal. So the question is whether the amendment is, we remove the limitation of just having those school children at school events. So we had a representative, State House Representative Scott Kearns from Great Falls show up at the last meeting. And it was his opinion that legislative intent of that policy included social events for the school. Senate Bill 157 specifically does not say that, because it starts out by saying that school district or an athletic association, conference, or organization with authority over interscholastic sports may not prohibit or restrict the ability of a student attending a non-public or homeschool meeting, the requirements of 25-109 from participating in extracurricular activities. There is no definition for extracurricular activities in this part of the law. The only part of the law that does give a definition of extracurricular activity is found in the school finance portion of the code, which is 29.311 MCA sub 13, talks about extracurricular activities being a sanctioned sport, an approved career training educational club, or a theater production. So in as much as the state legislature would like to, they can't play revisionist history and say, well, this is what we meant, because the language of the statute, if it is clear and unambiguous, you don't go to legislative intent. And I went through and listened to all of the testimony on both Senate Bill 72, which was carried by Senator Ear. Senate Bill 157 was carried by Senator Heinbaugh. Not one time was extracurricular activities meant to include a school social event. So this decision lies firmly within this board. And so the question isn't complying with state law, because state constitution, Article 10, Section 8 of the state constitution vests this authority within the locally elected school board. And so with all of that being said, coming back to a section of the policy that addresses social events, the decision is whether this board wants to extend the policy to allow non-school students at school events, pure and simple. So I don't want to have that conversation get muddied into state compliance with law and what legislative intent is, because the bill as it was codified is crystal clear. So with that, I mean, Mr. Chairman, if that helps maybe narrow the discussion a little bit to that section 2D, and whether we just say that, you know, attendance at a high school social event and dances, you know, are open, instead of being limited, shall be open to high school students and middle school students, you know, regardless of attendance in the school. Some words to that effect, and I don't know if that would be appropriate to, you know, entertain an amendment at this point, but we already have heard this policy and have approved this policy as it currently sits on first reading. So whatever we would make that change, and then we would basically vote a do pass on the amended policy.
Yeah, and you've approved it now on second reading. So this would be an amendment.
An amendment to the
Yeah, yep.
policy.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that guides a little bit of it, and I don't see Representative Kearns in the audience tonight, so unfortunately we don't get to have a disagreement of opinions and philosophy on legislative intent, but I came prepared.
Thank you for the background information.
I appreciate the background and, you know, I agree that it is a decision that rests, you know, with this board, with the school district. The only thing I'm going to go back is to my earlier comment that, you know, we can't separate the different levels of guests. So it's either we let all guests or we let no guests. So I guess that's the part that's, in my mind, is the only thing that's up for discussion.
So that means a kid could be a guest from Manhattan,
Correct.
or a homeschool kid from down the street.
Correct.
Either
There's
Guest
guests either way.
guest or no guest.
It's either guest or no guest.
And we still have the, you know, we still maintain the prior permission component, because that's something that Mrs. Heverin has
Yeah, it's not
spoke to,
necessarily an
that,
open door.
you know, yeah. The student within our district would say, I have, you know, a guest that I would like to bring, and this is who that person is, and there is a permission form, for lack of a better term, that gets completed, so that we have some information on that person in case, you know, there would be a need to, you know, to refer that to, you know, for some official action, you know, whether it be, you know, have the name of, you know, that could be passed along to the sheriff or to the chaperones, who would see somebody who is out of ordinary, you know, isn't a part of the actual student body, and know that that person is there legitimately because they received permission from the principal. So that part of the policy, I think is just sound practice. I mean, it's just responsible practice.
I'm curious, Sherry, what do you think? This is kind of your space. At least part of it is
Yeah.
high school part. I get
I
it.
really don't have any other additional information that hasn't been read or presented. I read the entire statement the last meeting. It reflects the feelings of the staff. Again, it's not a personal issue. My job is to advocate for the school and the students, and they're my number one priority, and I'm doing my job. So everything is, nothing really new from what's been presented previously the last couple of discussions. So the hardest part is the being able to, the way it stands now, with the non-enrolled guest attending, the way it stands now, they have to be an enrolled high school student so that an administrator from the other school or can sign off that they're in good standing and then they have no reservations of them attending our prom. So, and I have quite a stack on my desk already. We do this for every formal.
But for a homeschool student,
I just have a
that
parent.
you would just have a parent
Right.
say, this is my contact information.
So a non-public student, like you have a lot of high schoolers that are taking courses elsewhere, something from their administrator, as long as they're enrolled somewhere is fine?
The way our policy has been is that they have to be enrolled in the actual bricks and mortar high school. That's what we have, that's what our policy is now. So like a student from Jefferson, or a student from Manhattan, or a student from Three Forks, or a student, and most schools do this, and I know all schools do this differently. So, it is very open to what the decision of the board is and what the district does. And again, the history of it is just that we've had a lot of issues with non-enrolled students. So, and we haven't had any since we have the policy in place.
Is that attributable to disallowing them, or is it attributable to getting a permission slip and being able to put a name on it?
We've always done that. We've always done that, even previously when we had non-enrolled students attend. We've always done the yes pass. So yeah.
Laura, did you have a question? Comment?
Have a comment.
Comment.
I think one of the things that, I got several comments, I guess. One of them is, if we go all or nothing, I say, if that's really our choice, we keep it in district only. Because, the problem with allowing guests and opening it up to anyone, and right now, with the fact that Sherry can talk to the Three Forks principal and say, okay, would you recommend this kid? And actually, they send a form to school, the school fills it out, it's like a little application, and you send it back. Or Manhattan, and we also have age restrictions as well. But it's an actual application they fill out. And my problem with not having a kid at bricks and mortar school is, what if they've been expelled from Boulder and now they're homeschooled? We don't know that. And when we bring kids into our school, we want to keep, everybody in a safe, appropriate environment. And when we, like our kids here, we work with them and we train them and we ask them to be appropriate in class. There's rules that don't just deal with school, it's like how you act in school. And that is involved in other schools, I assume, but, there's rules. The kids walk in the door, they take their hat off. They say, why do we have to do that? You're a professional setting. So we're working them into learning how to behave at a social activity. And we don't have that necessarily, that control over students who we don't know. And if I'm at chaperoning a dance and I say, hey, I don't think so, that behavior isn't gonna fly, they straighten up because they know me, they respect me, there's that mutual respect. But if I have a kid off the street that I don't know, they're not gonna respond the same way because I've spent all year cultivating a relationship, or in some cases 4 years. And when we get an application from another school, they have that, that principal says, okay, I'm signing off on you, I expect you to act right. And if they don't act right, it gets back to them. And it's not always about a consequence, it's about that respect. If they lose that personal respect of a principal or a teacher or a coach, that has more bearing on how a kid acts than it is if they're gonna end up in ISF. I think that's where we don't know kids who, that are homeschooling, we don't have that sign off. We don't know, have they been expelled? And their parents are like, yeah, they were at Apple High, it's all good. We don't always know that. And we don't also have that mutual respect going back that says, hey, you gotta act right. So, I also hesitate to say, this is really hard to make a change 2.5 weeks in front of the prom. We have kids who have asked out-of-district guests, have filled out their applications, have been signed off by their principal, and if we say, nope, it's over, I mean, they've already ordered dresses, probably made, reservations. If you make a decision, I think it needs to be for next year, because that's a pretty tough change to make, I think, either way, when we only have 2.5 weeks of prom.
Thank you for that.
And Laura's right, I have signed up for our students to go to, other dances. And this is just a common thing that administrators do. And it's funny because that's exactly what I say to them. I'm signing this. And this means that you know how we expect you to conduct yourself.
Well, the one I signed had a behavior box and an academics, like they couldn't have had any behavior issues, and then they had to be academically eligible.
Hi, I'm here with we had a lot of talk about this with the students, and it was great just hearing everyone's opinion, and I think, on Will Line, sorry. And Ms. Ashman's completely right about that whole, course responsibility part of it, and knowing, okay, how do you hold this person responsible? And so I, personally, in my opinion, a lot of my classmates' opinions, we of course want other schools as guests too, because of course we know them and are very friends with them throughout sports. And then also in our kind of close-knit community, we'd also like homeschoolers to come too, and that's the whole thing of, we were thinking if we're signing this paper too, along with our parents signing this paper, along with their parents signing this paper, it's kind of the whole dual responsibility thing. And I feel like if things ever did get so bad, just let's say the guest vandalized something, then that's kind of the law's problem, I think, in a way. I feel like if someone breaks the law, it's not really gonna go tell the principal of the school. It's that's the cops. And I think another thing too with that would be with a guest who's asked to leave and they don't, that's also just trespassing. And so I think the whole situation with having if let's say my parents sign the paper and then the homeschooler's parents sign the paper, that's the whole agreement to saying if you break our rules, then it's that's our rules and we have the right to kick you out. And I think that's totally plausible to have even for this next prom coming up in 2 weeks. I don't really think that'd be that much of a pain to put into place, and I think a lot of people are really for that in the student body, and we really like that. But thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Will.
Laura did bring up the coaches, and I'm not wanting to disappoint coaches. What about doing a sponsorship? So if there's a homeschooler in the community that represents our school through academic or through athletics, if their coaches would be willing to be, instead of an administrator, if the coach would be that sponsor. They know the kids, they know their work ethic from having had them at sporting events.
And if, obviously if they're discussing some thoughts on compromises or things like that, one thing that occurred to me, and we have discussed it with staff and stuff too, is that, there is a process that homeschool students have to go through to participate in our MHSA activities too. They have to provide a whole laundry list of things and be meeting a lot of criteria. And if they meet that criteria, I really like the idea of the coach's endorsement with that too, that maybe that's a possibility that reflects that some as well. So.
And my only concern there is there are students who would like to invite their fellow athletes who are homeschool participants from other districts.
Right.
I would just want to make sure that they all get that same opportunity to attend. Because obviously in other districts, they're still having to meet the same the same requirements and things too, so.
A coach in another district, absolutely.
But you're gonna have some percentage of kids that, don't play a sport either, so you're still gonna lose.
That's definitely outliers.
Or maybe a school employee endorsement rather than specifically a coach, perhaps?
If they're not in school though.
Parent and guardian, why couldn't it be just a parent and guardian?
It is, and we've had that before, Todd. I've had parents sign off.
I mean, my heartburn with the whole thing is penalizing our current student body for the activities of past students, much like approving the use of utilities. And I understand that trying to contain students in those kinds of things, and were it not for a very detailed and heartfelt proposal, who knows, it could have gone either way. We could have said no or yes or no, but, you kind of anticipated those points of resistance. You dealt with that in the proposal for the school, or for the senior party, so I would hope in the same way that we could look to try and bridge some of these gaps a little bit, because I think it's very workable to allow that to address the concerns of administration about having non-district kids who aren't just non-district, but are ostensibly strangers into,
And again,
into our facilities and coexisting with our students. So I would hope that we'd be able to find something like that to work and move forward with the kids that we have now.
And again, it's kind of the non-enrolled thing. It's not necessarily centered on homeschool kids or anything else. It's just that non-enrollment situation.
Jeannie Steele, I'm just curious, I appreciate the fact when people want to invite people from outside of the brick and mortar. But I'm wondering how many youth from within the school are not invited to prom? If everybody's bringing people from other areas, are there people within the building that are excluded? And if there weren't opportunities to bring other people, if maybe there would be more within the building.
Kids anymore are very much big on and open to, even as part of it, when I was in high school, coming together in groups. And so we have a lot of kids that come together as groups and come with their friends. It's not necessarily a one-on-one, inviting dating scenario. That happens a lot, doesn't that?
Yeah.
Groups of kids will come together.
And I understand that, but I think it's.
But I get your point.
The times changed. I mean, when we were in high school, our goals were to get every kid in our class to the prom. It was a school function. It was a community function within. And I'm not disagreeing. I get that they're doing things, but I think that when they started going outside the perimeters, that then it started, people started to go in groups because they didn't have dates.
I think you got a date in your high school, huh? You're the one stuck with him. Somebody's gonna get a letter.
I've known some high school girls actually arrange some pairing and matching. I just laugh.
One of the points I come across in reviewing this before the meeting was talking about the district having the ability to, at least in part, qualify outside homeschool students, and I'll just use that term because there's a variety there, for the A and B funding. What is that really part of this discussion, or is that outside of this? Because I saw that there's been some discussion of making at least part A and B funding available for those that are coming.
They are two different things. Extracurricular activities are defined in the school finance.
Curricular, so
Yeah.
this wouldn't really qualify. Okay, sorry.
Oh, no,
Get 'em
no,
mixed up.
Yeah.
No, it's a good question. Yeah, no, there has been changes so that partially enrolled students, we can receive partial A and B
That's
for.
where I guess I got.
But this, when a student is not enrolled in school, we do not receive any funding or A and B for them.
We get partial funding for the athletes, don't we?
You have to qualify by hours, and it's kind of rated by, if you're under so many hours, you're over so many hours, that classifies.
Collectively, or?
Yeah, well, based on when the data is collected, there's a spring and fall collection data. So those dates, there's a date range, and they have to have so many hours within that range.
Of participating
enrollment.
practices and, just
Enrollment, yeah. So for example, you do a fall count, you do a spring count.
So there's nothing for we don't get any state funding for a homeschooler that participates in athletics.
No, because they're under the hours. So yeah, they're reported, but they're not considered.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I'm sorry if I led you astray.
Well, I guess I would just say, I was just thinking, and you're referring back to 2D, and I'm not sure if there's two things to consider. So in my mind, if we modified, in my mind, it'd be okay to modify the verbiage so that it said, attendance at high school social events and dances shall not be limited to high school students. Does that cover this conversation?
Well, you're talking about ages. So, I mean, you could say that attendance at a high school social event dances shall be limited to any high school age student.
Okay.
That opens it up. It doesn't specifically say non-district or district, or homeschool, honestly, for that matter. I mean, any high school age student. And middle school social events shall be limited to any middle school age student, provided, I don't like, the unless is kind of an unfortunate choice there, because it would just be, provided with, with prior permission from the superintendent.
Well, and I wonder if, and this is probably a question for others and for Brad, does it make sense? I kind of separate out high school from middle school. Do we want to have the same policy for middle school and unlimited sort of way?
Middle school's policy at this point has been no
Has
guest.
been,
Correct.
yeah,
So that
yeah.
was
So that's what I'm
going to be my
saying.
question.
So that's why I'm saying, I
This
wonder.
was.
Right. So that's why I'm wondering if it makes sense to modify 2D into separate items. 2D as high school, 2E, added 2E as middle school, to ensure that they are distinct. Unlimited and limited. Make sense?
Yeah.
So it can stay limited, absolutely can. It'd be very clear.
Yeah, it doesn't sound very clear right now.
It's kind of
What
all
would make it sound
encompassing.
more clear for you, Vanessa?
What's that?
What would make it sound more clear?
Well, if middle school's gonna stay just our middle school, it doesn't,
Can I suggest to say middle school social events shall be limited to students enrolled in Townsend Middle School?
So we just take care of the first clause of.
And high school, whatever's decided here, high school social events and dances shall be limited to students enrolled in
Well, and we're gonna be
Bravo
looking
or
at the
high
policy.
school, or high school age students that are enrolled anywhere. I mean, I don't know. It's one of the things I think, are you looking at, so here's an issue that I see, and I don't know if you're talking, and I'm not, I know how middle school dances work, and they're not invited, you come with a date where they are there. I think my understanding of having students go through school is there's kind of two different dances possibly in the high school. There's those that are more formal, that you come as a date, you are invited, you are vetted. You just say high school students enrolled, and you have a dance. I believe they have some that are they show up. I don't know if they're you know, you're not buying tickets in advance, making preparations. I mean, is that open to any, you know, half the student body is on a high wants to come? Do they show up and go, hey, there's a dance going on like you would, there's a street dance in Townsend, let's go? No, I mean,
With prior permission
that's-
from the principals, so.
Well, okay, yeah, I would
Principal
say, I
doesn't
think
have
that's
time to
important.
remind
That's-
them on the high.
That's the thing with the prior, yeah, okay, if you're wording it with prior permission.
Right now,
that's-
yeah, oh yeah, I say, I think that that's just
yeah,
just a
I
sound
totally
management
agree,
practice.
because otherwise you could.
If the administration would like to.
I think it makes sense to allow high school.
Yeah, it does.
And not allow
We
middle
left
school,
that part.
and do so in at least a 1 year, try it out. If it's a train wreck, then we think about something else. If it's not, then we continue. Rally the writing.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Somebody can make a motion.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, one minor point for clarification, so before the motion, just because it might behoove us to have our policy attorney come up with the final verbiage before and be comfortable with doing, and the parents for that matter, with the conceptual amendment that actually allows, believe it or not, to even do this in the state legislature. Somebody say, hey, I propose a conceptual amendment, and then the actual language of it kind of works itself out as they end up going through the procedure. But we can provide the direction to Chris to split 2A or to 2D into two parts, one to specifically address high school students of any age are able to attend the social events and dances, and leaving the middle school portion of it as is, both of those having prior permission.
Yeah,
I mean, that gets us down the road, that allows.
And that's supposed to be the key to us being non-MTSBA policy services, is supposed to be able to send him in our adjustments and he will make those and then he will send them back.
Yeah, and
So important decisions I just need clarified then in the motion would be that we are being inclusive of guests, right? And including students that are not attending a brick and mortar school, and or others, as long as they're within the high school age range. And then I do think it's clarified it's important to clarify dances versus social events, unless we're
Yeah, I think
opening.
before we get too far, I think we need to decide what extracurricular means. Because Todd, I don't know, where did you say you found your definition of extracurricular?
the only place it's in the code is in the finance section. Which is
Well, because
actually
see, I found it elsewhere.
29.311.
The only place I could find it was in regards to children of military families and their education. And under that educational part, they defined extracurricular activities, voluntary activities sponsored by the school or local education
Right, for Gold
agency.
Star families,
With that,
for Gold Star families.
is that what it's for?
Children of military, yeah.
Was that different? I mean, they're not going to
Well,
different public
so
schools.
the definition of extracurricular activity is absent from the bill that was codified to allow extracurricular activities and non-district kids. It's silent. So I said the only definition that even got close, I think Chris brought this up in our review of the policy, was in the school finance section where they specifically talked about the sanctioned event or activity like MHSA, having an approved CTE club or association, and theater production, school theater production. I found that was kind of odd, but that's where it was. But the bills that were codified from 2021 that talk about participation in extracurricular activities glaringly miss to either adopt the existing definition or to establish their own. And cannot, just as a matter of interpretation, say, well, it's not in there, so we're going to adopt these other ones. It's persuasive maybe, but absent, ambiguous language in the statute, which there isn't any, you gotta take it at its face. And again, what difference does any of it make if the decision is within our ability anyway? We could say, okay, dances, yes, but social events, no. So what, they can't come to the, ice cream social that we have? I mean, I don't know what kind of social events that we have outside of dances, or maybe, something to do with homecoming or something along those lines. But I would imagine that it was trying to be, where we talk about social events, those things that are sponsored by the school for the students, and they're not limiting it to just a dance, some other kind of social event, so.
So to clarify, in the middle school, historically, we have had some social events, movie screenings for our students, whatever, just, or, different things like that. So, I don't know if the high school does or not, but ones that we do here on campus with clubs. So I think that would be the exception to, just the dances, because I do think.
So the statute provides that, again, we're talking about any school district, athletic association, conference, or organization with authority over interscholastic sports. All of the law that has been passed, at least to date, has dealt with allowing non-district kids in extracurricular activities. And it's, whether you look at a definition that was included in a Gold Star parent, or whether you look at a definition that's in school finance, I don't think any of that matters. I think it matters what we decide that we want to do for, a social event or for a dance. And 2A, B, and C talk about social events have prior approval of the administration. Social events must be held in school facilities. Social events must be chaperoned. I mean, we could say social events and dances must have prior approval. Social events and dances must be held in school. That actually would be more consistent with the construction of D that says attendance at a high school social event and dance. The term "and dances" in D was meant to be expansive and more inclusive. And so I think trying to define something that has already been defined for a completely different purpose only muddies the water. I respect you saying that we need to have something that we can lay that out, and my answer is we can, and we don't need anything to that. I think that if we say social events and dances, that's as controlled, expansive kind of language as we can get without saying including but not limited to ice cream socials and movie signings and parking lot, tailgate things and homecoming events and all of that. That's where having social events and dances opens that up. There may also be some other event that doesn't fit those categories. Like, this board has the ability to revisit the policy on an as-needed basis, and as long as, if it was a real urgent issue, we could suspend the 2 reading policy and approve it on first reading. So
Let me make a stab at something here, and you guys tell me how bad it is.
well, that's why I wanted to go with the conceptual amendment, saying that what it was that we would allow, and then that can get communicated.
So let me, yeah, so that's the idea. That's that. I believe I wrote something to that with that intent. So it would be to, and of course this isn't the motion, so I want feedback. Move to allow all high school age guests to attend Townsend social events and dances if prior permission is received from the principal. Simple as that. Does that meet the criteria? and that aligns with social events as listed in 2A, B, and C.
But then you're also needing to include with that motion, the fact that we're keeping the middle school event.
Oh, that's actually, well, that's high school age, yes. And we're gonna separate out the middle school. And that would be 2D and 2E.
So, Mr. Chairman, maybe I'll take the motion and take a stab at the motion, and that I've moved in that this board approve the amendment of policy 3510, section 2D, to separate high school into the existing 2D, to move middle school to 2E, with the language in 2D allowing that attendance at high school social event or dances shall not, shall be open to any high school age student. And then having the 2E read the same as it also does. Both sections having prior permission as a condition from the principal.
May I ask a question real quick?
Actually, not yet. I need a second to that.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and I'm not even gonna begin. Did you get most of what you needed to?
I have it written down.
I have it. I have good notes, but I can also go to the tape. Thank you.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, the motion that Mr. Olson presented. Is there any discussion?
I just have a question. I get dances. I'm looking over here at our staff, and I'm wondering if you're asking them to do a lot with that social stuff put in there.
I have the same concerns that social events is incredibly broad.
Very.
I'm really worried about that. Dances
I
are
mean,
one
I'm
thing,
looking
a
at
couple
them, I'm
times a
gonna
year.
give them a bag of
Social
football.
events could encompass a million things.
Right, but I guess when I look at it, it's with principal permission.
2A, with prior approval of the
Can we have them that
administration.
have to, instead of twice a year, like every social, and I'm not just saying.
Now, can we
any
talk
of
about
these-
your raise?
What's that?
Can we talk about your raise? Can we just give you a whole other job?
I'm concerned about things like, what about, for example, bonfire at homecoming? Is that considered a social event, or is that a school activity, as we kind of, as the staff kind of outlined in our statement about school activities versus, you get what I'm saying, versus extracurricular sports, speech and drama.
Well, we already have in the policy that it requires approval of the administration, approval of the school board, and it must be chaperoned.
But then
So
does.
if we can't get adequate
Yeah.
chaperoning, if
But
we
that
can't
could-
get adequate police presence, if it's something that.
That could be a lot.
But I think it opens it up to us, and that's, I guess, why I wanted that kind of clarified, whether we were doing what social events or dances, because it does open it up to, anything that someone would maybe want to bring a friend to or something, like, where's the permission slip? And then, what are we inviting folks to and what aren't we?
So the conflation piece is under number 2, under social events, under the policy itself. A, B, and C speak to social events. D talks about social events and dances. So there's a conflating of as the conversation is going, we're conflating social events and dances.
Would it be possible to read the motion again? I'm kind of not clear what we did with the middle school.
Middle school is gonna have its own.
Yeah.
Shall be limited to middle
So that-
school
that's-
students enrolled in Townsend School
Basically,
District.
Okay.
And it goes to 2. If this structure were to stay the same, that would go to 2E, completely separate
Right,
item.
okay.
Yeah.
So is the intent with the social events? I'm just thinking about policing. You think about the cup pong that they have at the school. There's not necessarily like a check-in. You're not, checking in at an entrance table. So what is the intent for Mrs. Heffer to be able to police that?
What event did you mention?
They had a cup pong tournament.
That was a dance. That was
Or
an
it was
in-house
considered a
school
dance.
dance. But it wasn't,
But,
it
or
wasn't.
dodgeball or something, where there's not really necessarily someone There's not an RSVP, there's not a ticket to buy, there's not a place to check in when you get there. How do you police who has the approval to be there? Who doesn't?
I think students really are only caring about the dances. I don't think social events even needs to be in this section at all. I think really students just want to bring their homeschool friends to dances, and that's really all they want. So I think the social events could just be taken out. I think everyone would be okay with that.
And do dances in your mind go beyond prom and formal? Are there other?
The only dances I know of are homecoming, prom, and then sometimes a winter formal if the student council puts it on. But that's it.
Forgive me for my ignorance, but homecoming dance, do you go ask a specific date to the homecoming?
Many do, yes.
Homecoming and prom are usually the two most consistent formal type dances. On occasion, we've had a winter formal, and but I think it got something a couple of years ago. It was kind of last minute, and so we just kept it to in district because we didn't even have time to go through the approval process, and we had no time to do that. So we just limited it to our own students because we were out of time. It was only like a couple of weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah, and student council now has it on their agenda each year.
Right.
So it is now a planned dance each
Right.
year.
So
So
really, the
that's
three
educational.
is main, those would be the three main formal things where we would go through those kind of formalities.
So do we
yes.
want to define those three events?
We can just say formal dances.
You could just say.
Yeah, I think
formal
dances is good.
Kind of along the line of allow all high school age students to attend Townsend formal dances if prior permission is received from the principal.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what we're focusing on, right? Now, with that said, we probably need to take a closer look with, the whole section 2, because you're defining social events, and then it leads into dances and so
You're
on.
not defining social events, though.
Well, you're not defining it. No, okay, granted.
Separate.
But you're talking about social events have to have prior approval of the administration and so on. Correct, that's correct. But we are separating out through this conversation, social events versus formal dances. And so we just may need to take, all I'm saying is that I think we may need to take a little closer look at that section and edit the verbiage appropriately.
Yeah, and I do have,
Yeah, more completely.
I can work with Chris on it, but I do have wording in mind because we do not allow certain students who have had behavior infractions recently, for example, attend some of those fun events that we do put on for the students in middle school and high school. And so, yeah, so that's where those A, B, and C would still apply to the social events for certain students, but then we want the language in there for to be more inclusive for the dances, right?
Right.
If that's the direction you're choosing to go.
I think so.
And I would tend to very much agree with Will, and, this session knows that, social events to me is way broad, and that could be super problematic for everybody.
And I just don't think students really want or people with the social events.
Well, your class, you might be able to speak for your class.
Yeah,
Not
my
necessarily the next one.
He's the student body president.
Yeah.
He's speaking.
But that is the trouble when you put in rules, is a lot of times you word them to address something right now,
Right.
and
that's why,
again, go back to intent of rules.
when you have something, again, there is every kind of control measure in the policy to say, no, we can't do it. Why can't you do it? We don't have the manpower. We don't have the budget. It conflicts with other events.
And again, a lot of those social events, as we outlined here, are student activities associated with our culture, our climate, our student body. They're meant to be those things. And so, we want to preserve some of that as well. We want to preserve some of that as well. It belongs to our school, it belongs to our Bulldog family, it belongs to, those sorts of things as well. We want to preserve some of that as well,
And we don't want you becoming the good cop, bad cop. That's not your role.
Unfortunately, it is.
Not in that environment, not when people are not enrolled under their authority.
Could you could you at least say that it's school age, not just open it up, that any school age, any high school age student can come join us? Can we at least, can they at least have to be invited by somebody? They have to be invited by a current enrolled student.
Isn't that how I mean, I don't know.
How would
you
the
accept an
application-
unsolicited permission slip? Somebody just says, hey, I don't know anybody in the school, but I want to come here. No, that wouldn't happen.
Some of us.
got permission.
They just try multiple schools
What
around.
I want to avoid is like also like somebody sending out a group text saying, hey, come down to Townsend for this.
I think it should be, like I said,
It
yes.
needs to be our event.
Yes.
So we need to get a clarification, I guess, on the wording somehow, some way. We all agree.
I think I have it. If you want to give me the permission to put through your intent. And of course, yeah.
What is okay and what's not okay, subject to final language.
Right, and I just want to make sure.
So the
that we all
keywords
agree
being
on that.
guests. Okay. Yeah, true.
Well, and one thing to bring up as well, we do have, as our policy reads right now, we have allowed our own, like, former students up to a certain age level if they were obviously approved by me. For example, somebody that graduated a year ago, or somebody, we have students right now asking for those folks to come. So does this mean after tonight, I have to tell those kids, no, you can't come now? Same situation, they may have already purchased a dress because they're not high school age anymore.
Well, we didn't define high school age.
What's that?
We didn't define high school
They can be in high
age.
school till they're 19, so.
Yeah, but if they're, so the kids they're freshmen in college and their girlfriend or boyfriend's in high school.
I just don't want to make things awful for them, that kind of speaks to what Laura was saying about, people already have plans in motion 2 weeks before the prom. So
Right, which is
just-
why.
I want people to consider that, I want that to be considered there too. Is there some kind of exception for that? I don't know.
What, do you want to put an age on it? Like, what kind of ages are you working with?
How old some of these kids are.
Some of them are turned 19 in the spring of quite a few of them turned 19 in the spring of their senior year, so.
I
if they
just
were
want some kind
dating,
of caveat for kids that might
whatever.
affect this year, and then we can roll forward or whatever.
The one I've seen policy before had it where it's actually written or graduated 1 year prior. It wasn't an age.
The way we have it worded is any BH student under the age of 21 with my approval.
That's what I was gonna say, under
That's how it's
20 or
worded
under
right now.
21.
But I don't know, that it will change if we change the policy to say high school age students. only.
But it's not defined, so in my thought it wouldn't.
Okay.
But-
I just don't want to create problems for current students already because of what decisions get made.
But that's one of those things where, is that what it says in the handbook or on that permission slip? Because that's one of the things we're trying to align to make sure that the language is consistent in each
It's both.
place.
It's on both. It's consistent, because it's whatever the current policy is, that's what's on that permission slip. And they've already picked them up and started turning them in, and we're in the throes of it right now. So I just don't want to
Mhm.
do something awful to a kid that's already been told, I don't want to go backwards on that.
So it's a former BHS student under 21. I like that.
So that could be 2 years out. Under 20, with that criteria.
We get
So
very
we
high.
So we will get the official language from MTSBA, but everybody's in agreement that for this year, this circumstance, it's up to basically the principal's discretion. As long as they meet
The permission.
the permission criteria.
And the and whatever the application, the application process that they have.
That's the permission.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Now-
we're still including the older students, but we're going to include the homeschool students as well this
As
year?
long as they fill out the application and it's approved by the principal.
So any non-enrolled that
So any homeschool student could invite another homeschool student and not have to invite.
No. Don't they have to, would they have to be?
A guest of a student.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're looking,
I know.
yes, that is invited by an enrolled student.
They have Fall Fest for those kids.
Yes.
Okay, as long as that's clarified. All Fest is it.
Okay, one more clarification. So, because we're going to have to change our application because right now it currently has the school administrator of the guest signing off. So, does the student need to be enrolled in school at all? And who signs off on, do they need to be eligible like our homeschool students need to be eligible to participate in sports? Do they need to be academically eligible? Do they need to be in any kind of good standing, or are their parents just vouching for them? Are we just putting a parent permission line?
That's really all you can do. That's why I said it either had to be one way or the other, because once you go the other way, it opens, there's too many possibilities.
I mean, and I obviously don't want to make more work for Sherry, but like if a student is participating in sports that's homeschooled, they have to provide proof of a true program or something, right?
They also have to be in our district, which that, to me, provides a caveat too.
So, but I'm saying that way
They've
you
already
don't
done
have one that, you know, because quite honestly, we do have, I mean, or at least say that they're registered homeschoolers somewhere. I mean, because what I'm saying is you get the kid, I guess, dropped out, and maybe we want, I don't know, but, you know, in our homeschool, they're just not going to school. And that's, you know.
But I guess my clarification, our homeschool students still have to come as a guest, covering student.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
so then it doesn't, I guess to me, I guess it doesn't. Because you're just asking for somebody to sign that permission slip. I mean, you've taken the responsibility factor out of it.
I guess to me, it's the differences of if they're a student at all or not. Like, because at the age of 16, you can drop out.
That's what I'm saying.
So do we ask for a county superintendent to sign off as their homeschool enrolled student and their parent? Or are we just asking for their parent, or are we asking for like?
All the homeschool ones in county.
What about Penn Foster?
If they
students that are
register with the
technically
county.
enrolled as homeschool students? How would you?
If they're over 16, you're right, then they wouldn't be.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, I missed that, I'm sorry.
I said, what about like?
They wouldn't have to be.
Penn Foster students that aren't enrolled in homeschool, so there's no, you get what I'm saying?
Okay. So yeah, that opened up a can of worms. That's what I was wondering.
Are we trying to include homeschool students in our dance as a guest? Or are we opening this up to any kid between the age 14 and 19, even if they're a dropout, you know, which is like 16, but are we gonna include those kids? What about some of the kids we've expelled? Are we gonna include those kids?
I think that's where the permission comes, right?
But, I mean, so is Sherry supposed to like go back and say, well, you know, where are you enrolled at? And if parents say, oh, yeah, they're enrolled, then we have nothing. So, you know, I guess that's my question. Are you trying to include the kids that are currently homeschooled in a homeschool program, or are you just gonna open it to every kid in the county from 14 to?
Not just in the county, in the state, basically.
State.
What is the insurance liability when it's somebody that's not enrolled in the brick and mortar?
I think any
anybody's ever asked that question. Congratulations. I mean,
It's all about litigation.
yes, it is. So you minimize your risk, and if you,
The school's liability lies, anybody that's in the building.
and it doesn't matter, even if it happened out in the street in front of the school, the plaintiff's gonna go after the deepest pocket. So it's kind of rule number one of litigation. So, again, I mean, really, if anything, the increased burden, I don't think lies as much on preparing for the events and chaperoning the events and supervising the events as maybe as it's shifting a bit more now to the administrative review of who it is that's coming on.
Well, and again, we want to, I still, and I know the staff feels this way, there are schools activities. So yes, if they invite a guest, that's fine. We still want to keep it our schools activities, our dances, our activities for our student body. If they invite a guest here or there, that's great. So maybe truly maybe the word non-enrolled is too open. Maybe if it truly is the homeschool students in our district situation, maybe that's how we word it, to include any high school age homeschool students registered in our county or in our district or however we want
But
to say that.
that doesn't include guests that's in a school district side.
If it's homeschooled at 3 floors, or.
That's what I'm saying.
But it wouldn't include your guests from another.
Yeah, it doesn't include.
Well, they're already
They have to be
in
registered
our
someplace
school.
else, right, as a
But
school
that
kid?
doesn't say that.
But what we're
Their county,
saying,
specific county?
I think, Sean, one of the big things is I think what, one of the, Mrs. Ashman was asking, I think, and it is a concern if it's in high school, a lot of students say they're going to homeschool or aren't, the ones that do it right, just like with anything.
Right.
Follow the
Right.
rules and register and have a true course of study, whereas some do not, and those are what become our dropouts. And it's.
So then the dumb question on my part maybe, because I'm just not that familiar, so a homeschool student, they have to register, as I mentioned, with this county superintendent.
They're supposed to.
They're supposed to.
They're
So
required to.
They're required to.
If
So-
they don't within 2 weeks, I'd have to turn them in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
If they're under 16.
If they're under 16, so, and that's too,
Okay,
so they
okay.
can, yeah.
So that may be some, a part of that criteria that can be included as well, be registered homeschool student.
But then there are the ones that are enrolled in an online program. They don't register as homeschoolers.
They could easily register though. There's no reason, they don't have to by law, but if they wanted to participate in the dances, they could register as a homeschool student and meet the requirements by showing that they have a curriculum.
That's actually what they do for extracurriculars, so.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Law says that a school district or athletic association, anyway, talks about may not prohibit or restrict the ability of a student attending a non-public or homeschool meeting requirements 25-109. And 25-109 talks about the registration aspects of the school and, maintains records, shall provide minimum aggregate hours in accordance with the other parts of the law, must be, they talk about housed in a building, but I mean, that's the standard that they set for participation in extracurriculars. And it could be very easy to apply the same standard to these events.
Sounds good.
I did not get that.
It's recorded.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay, good.
No doubt.
Does the board feel like they're in agreement on what we're putting on?
In principle, yes.
Yes.
I think there's further discussion we need to have, but for this purpose, I think we're good.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. Motion passed. 3-1.
So what was
exactly
passed?
Yeah.
They're going
What do I have
to
to do?
allow somebody enrolled in a program. It could be another school district, it could be a homeschool district, it can be an online, if they can prove that they're enrolled. They have to be within the age requirements that are already present on that form, is that correct? Or is that on there or not?
It's on there.
So that basically they have to turn in the application that is already being used and it has to be approved by the principal.
And they have to be invited by one of our parent students.
So what does that do to your freshmen in college that still might want to come to your high school prom? That's a date with a senior in high school.
She was allowing that through
It's
what
on-
was already allowed on that application.
They're leaving that.
So for this event coming up, that would still be allowed.
Kevin's present.
Throw another one.
We lost them, didn't we?
Okay. All right.
So did you guys, sorry if I missed this one part, may I ask, who's signing off then, just the parent? Or did we agree with that on that, come to an agreement on that yet?
I mean, who else?
Okay,
I don't think there's
The
any other
county,
option.
yeah, the county person's not gonna know.
Yeah.
Anything, except that they've put their name in.
Because if it's somebody that's theoretically enrolled,
If they have to prove that they're enrolled somewhere, then she's gonna have to sign off on it anyway. It's not gonna matter who's signing off on their end, right?
the county superintendent where they're enrolled for
She's
homeschool.
having, because Susie, for Sherry's having to look at if they're enrolled, if they show proof that they're enrolled.
Yep.
Right?
So the county superintendent would have to sign off would be the proof that they were enrolled.
but that doesn't work.
I thought they could just bring something showing.
I think
her
she's
that they're
saying
enrolled.
if they have proof they're enrolled somewhere, then the signature doesn't really matter as long as they are meeting the requirements, right?
I still want a parent signature, saying
Okay.
they're gonna be accountable for those kids if they get in trouble.
Okay.
Need a number to call. I had to do that before.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, and in my mind, you've already started signing people up from outside the district already. And so I guess in my mind, we'll see how it goes. And if it, again, if it circles back, it's a train wreck, it's a train wreck. If it's not, we'll maybe modify in the future.
Well, I think we still need to modify, we need to figure
Yeah,
out
there's
what's
some things.
extra, what clubs or organizations.
I think this prom coming up will be a great just way to kind of test drive this and see how well it works out. I think it's a really good time for this all, just to see if we like it or not.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, principals reports. Christina.
Okay, so the 21st Century Grant, we haven't heard anything back yet, so crossing our fingers, so hopefully soon. The Legion actually came in and spoke to the 5th grade teachers, and I'm actually gonna throw Kim on the spot for a couple of things here since she's here. So Legion came in, been working with Legion quite a bit lately. There's things that they used to do with the district, and just over time, they've gotten away from it. And so they started off by coming in, talking to 5th grade teachers about Americanism and wanting to bring that in. And there is an award they can win, right? Do you want to expand on that?
Actually, what they told me, or told us, was that it's a student, they're gonna come back, I have it written down somewhere, in the spring sometime and talk to our students more, but it's actually a student. The students get to nominate who they feel is a citizen. Doesn't have to be like you got the best grades or you're the most popular, but they talk to them about citizenship and what that means. And then the kids vote right there on who they feel is the person that should receive that award in our 5th grade. So I thought it was pretty interesting. So
along with some other things like bringing in like fourth grade, flag etiquette, things like that. They used to come in and have kids where they'd actually put up the flag. I remember doing it in middle school, that was our job once a week, put up the flag for the week. So try and bring some of those things back. And also, since I have Kim here, the teacher, the residency program that we're doing, part of that is that Kim and I have been attending a lot of different seminars, and one of them really got into personalized learning. And so fifth grade, it actually put a little fire in Kim. She's been really excited, and personalized learning, they've actually expanded into their science program. And so they started off on that. The kids are actually given a list of things to pick from, and then they actually dig deeper into that and then go further into what they want to learn more about. And so the kids are actually leading the discussion of what they want to do. And then they're actually present on what they learned, and they get to pick on how they present that information as well. So the fifth grade has agreed to jump in on that and take the reins. And the kids, from what I'm hearing, the kids are liking that they get to.
I also push out in math too, that for a lot of our kids that do it in math.
So fifth grade slowly pushing in some personalized learning. So I know Dr. Sean's got them wanting to come see it, and so I know that.
Can I visit?
Come on.
All right, all right, I'll be there.
I will say, I've heard a lot too, that OPI is totally on board with this. Because I was like, oh yeah, this is amazing. I've been waiting for, Auburn and I have been waiting for years for this to happen. And then now she's done it. And I'm like, oh man, I was gonna retire. But, and when I got interviewed on it, the interview people, I said, yeah, but I mean, where's this going for state? Is it even worth my time and effort? And they said, oh yeah, OPI is totally, they're the ones that asked us to interview you. So I think OPI is on track. So,
I would just
very
add,
exciting.
and don't take this the wrong way, it doesn't matter where it goes within our state, as long as it goes the right direction in our district.
Yeah.
For our kids.
Yeah.
So that's kind of.
And that's what we've talked about, Christina and I, that, even if it's not statewide, that at least do something here.
Good job.
I mean, we started with science. It's like, what was the easiest way to, make this happen? And science seemed like the best way. So they started with science first and working their way into other things. Because with our math groups and everything, that I know Kim's got the higher group that they need to do some extensions, and so that's really helps with that too. That personal piece. Thank you, Kim. Sorry, to put you on the spot there. Parent-teacher conferences, we had our K2 conference, we had 80% attendance, and those were student-led conferences, so we had a really good turnout, and really appreciate families attending that. Summer camps, I've actually started to receive lots of phone calls and messages and emails and Facebook and everything else looking for summer camps, so I promise those will be out on May 1st, and for that schedule. I've got a lot of people offering to help out this summer, and a lot of great ideas out there. So it's going to be lots of different experiences from the past. Kindergarten roundup, current number we are at is 55 already for our kindergarten roundup. In April 28th, we are actually booked up. So we are extending our roundup into the 27th on the afternoon as well. We just don't have enough spots to be able to get it all done on the 28th. So we're already at 55.
It was like 42 a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. April 27th we're going to have to go into, and I'm not sure where we're going to have it yet, but we'll talk about it. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, we just actually confirmed up this today because we've already used up all of our spots, and we still have 6 people not on the schedule, so. So I'm not sure, we'll have to see where that takes us for numbers for classes, because with 3 kindergarten classes, we're capped at 60, so we'll see where that takes us. We already have 4 first grade classes and 4 second grade classes for next year. So those numbers are high. So we'll see. April 19th, so next week is our 3rd grade family lunch, and We had such a large number attend our second grade that I wasn't expecting that we kind of had to scramble last minute. So this time we're prepared for third grade. We'll have space for everyone. We're not scrambling to find spots for everyone to sit. Our SBAC testing actually starts next week. I believe fifth grade starts next week. And then we got our concert finalized for May 4th at 6 p.m.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, good, just kind of one informational point, going back a little bit to teacher residency. Legislature, so they have House Bill 833 going through to actually establish, basically they're putting an amendment in the Constitution which would kind of describe legislative intent about collaboration and fostering residency and mentorship and that kind of thing. But it's already made its way through the House, and the Senate is hearing it, Kim, on the 19th at 3 o'clock. So if you have the time, I mean, you could submit an email comment. You can send it to all the committees, all the senators who actually sit on the Senate Education Committee. You can send it to the chair, you can send it to the bill sponsor. But you could let them know, and I think your experience in that so far would, I mean, it seems to be going through the process pretty good, but I think that, even though they've got a good head of steam, a little nudge from behind, certainly doesn't hurt. That's House Bill 833, and it's Senate Education Committee on the 19th at 3.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Rob?
Okay, as Ms. Hartman said, testing is ready to start. We'll start ours a little later, about the last week of May. We'll begin that process, all the notice, everything. Yeah. There you go. Tuesday, May 16th will be the middle school Holocaust Remembrance Night. If you get a chance to stop by, I encourage you to do so. It's kind of the culmination of the work our students are doing, and they once again will be have the opportunity, if they choose, to put a little blurb and read some passages, and we'll have our radio station carrying them every hour. Just kind of some Holocaust remembrance pieces that they read. And it's really an outstanding unit. It's really a powerful night. I know the kids on the close-up trip just went to, this year they were able to visit the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., and it's something that's very difficult to get in, so I'm impressed they were able to do it. But it was interesting to hear a couple of them talk about that being one of the most memorable things they did on their entire trip to DC and New York, and said that work they did in 8th grade learning about it prepared them a lot for it. So if you get a chance to stop by, we'd certainly love to have visitors. It is open to the public.
Can you say that date one more time?
Yeah, May 16th, Tuesday evening, we'll be in this room. They usually set up about 6. And then next year we will have a couple changes in the middle school, staffing wise, due to retirement and a possible transfer. So we will have some changes. One of the things that usually happens, we've had some teachers over the last few years in the middle school that have been willing to change what they teach a lot. So when we do hire, it's usually pretty important that we get somebody with the K-8 endorsement, because that gives us the freedom in the middle school to, you can teach basically anything for the K-8 endorsement. Otherwise, if it's a specialty endorsement, we're limited to using them in only certain areas. And that, just the way we're set up, is sometimes it's hard to make somebody full-time or to use our money really wisely, I guess, that way. So that's something that we'll consider as we hire new people. And then just a couple comments on building issues. One, the security issues are just so much better right now with the things we've done with our new facility and the remodel and making, on a closed hallway between the buildings. And we just here in the last couple weeks had key fobs installed on the door in that walkway, that breezeway between the middle school and high school. And that helps a lot because that door is getting propped open, had to be left unlocked with the greenhouse out there. And so I think the money to put a fob on that was money well spent. I appreciate that happening. And then our new steam room that we're using a lot. Apparently we'll get some new flooring just to a defective product, but my understanding is they'll do that as soon as they can get the person down here. And that room has been a really positive addition for us too. It gets used a lot. So we're very appreciative of all those things. And I think this year we will do something a little different, is my understanding, and Mrs. Hebron can comment on it too. But I believe now we'll go, in the past we've done a 5 through 8 concert on a separate night. I think this year it will now become 6 through 12. And that will, I think the date was set as May 1st.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep.
So yeah, that's it.
And yeah, ours is K5 instead of K4 this year.
Yes, we do. So rather than have 3 concert nights, it will be 2 that week, which will, I think, be easier on everybody from parents to teachers to everything. So that'll be May 1st.
And I hope we've got reminders because there's so many things happening.
There are, and that was one of the things that was really difficult. I mean,
I'm pretty sure that one wasn't on the calendar when I was looking through there.
Yeah, it's been on there for a while.
I had it as May, I had it as May 8th or something.
Well, we had to
That's
move
what I
it.
was thinking.
It got moved around a little bit.
We had to move them around a little bit.
Wasn't that on May 15th? No, it was the 16th. I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
I just show up every night and see what's going on. If I have to stay, I do.
I drive by the school and see all the cars that I forgot.
Yeah, it's really, this time of year every year, but this year, obviously, with some of the things going on, it's exceptionally busy and trying to fit all those things in, but the concerts are a big deal. We're excited for them and glad that the students have the opportunity to show up that they've been doing all semester. So it'll be good.
Any questions from Mr. Grover? Thank you. Ms. Evans?
Okay, so we had most of our CTE organizations and clubs kind of wrap up their seasons for the year. So big congratulations to our BPA students, our FFA students, our FCCLA students, and our Skills USA students. We go through all of them here in just a couple of weeks. I know for BPA, we had Connor Lamb place 4th and qualified for nationals. FFA, I'm trying to rack my brain because that just happened not too long ago. I believe Caitlin Noyes finished, what did she finish? Jason, help me out here. Do you remember? But you on the spot. I'm trying to remember. She finished, she placed, she did well. That's all we know.
She was doing creeds.
The creed speaking, yes. She did well with that. So we had quite a few kids do well with that. I know, sorry, I put you on the spot. I know there's one more too that I'm forgetting there, but we had Tristan Mose place 1st in her event for FCCLA, and she also qualified for nationals. So, and Clint had only 2 that ended up competing at Skills, and they finished quite well as well. So, just really a testament to all of our CTE programs. Those advisors work so hard, and We always hear so often that it's always just only about athletics and only about this and that. And we just have kids crushing it in all areas, all over the place, in a lot of different activities. So that's good to see. We like that well-rounded education for them. As I talked about previously, did attend the National Principals Advocacy Conference in DC, the end of, end of March. Fantastic event. Again, it's an opportunity through my position with Montana Association of Secondary School Principals to advocate at the national level for public schools and public education. And it is, it's fascinating. It's quite the process. I never dreamed 23 years ago when I became a teacher that I would ever be involved in something like that at all. And it's just quite a humbling experience. About 400 plus elementary and high school principals were on the Capitol, on Capitol Hill Day that Wednesday, and pretty incredible stuff. We met with all of our, the high school group from Montana, 8 of us met with all of our senators and representatives up on the Hill and had some really great, just very small conversations. And it's always a fantastic experience to get to sit with those folks in those positions. And they really do want to hear from us. They want to know what's actually happening in our classrooms and in our schools. And they beg us to tell a lot of just real personal stories about what's going on in our public schools. And what I commend them all. The first thing they say is, what do you need from us to help you? So it's always a really great experience to go through that. Fun thing to be involved with. It's important work. So we have the juniors job shadowing coming up. Mr. Schnicken's been working very hard on getting all of our juniors a job shadowing experience. This program started several years ago and we've continued it. It's just an awesome experience. We coordinate it with a couple of teachers in the high school to also make it an academic experience. They have some assignments and some things they have to do around their job shadowing. Mr. Schmidt has been working so hard, and obviously whole new experience for him being our new high school counselor this year, but he's done a great job getting everybody placed. We have kids attending job shadows in Helena, here locally. I believe we even have 1 or 2 in Bozeman, and a couple of areas, maybe in Three Forks as well, at that office there too. So everything from veterinary offices to architecture firms to, we kind of let the kids give us a couple of choices of what they really like to job shadow, and they get very excited about it. And so they'll be doing that the week of the 17th. So that's next week, isn't it? Next week we're job shadowing. So that's always a fun experience for them. So
Does every single junior go?
yes,
Oh, wow.
yes. On occasion we get one that refuses and they just take a 0, I guess, on their job shadow unit, but not very often. Most of the kids are pretty excited to engage in that, and we try to promote that as a fun experience. So everybody's in testing mode. As you can see, we are desperately trying to get our high school maps test scheduled, and just about the time I think I have a couple of days it'll work. Staff or students are gone, which makes it difficult because our teaching, I can't have a sub run a maps test. It has to be the teachers. It has to be the certified teachers. So that's a bit of a struggle. We're shooting for April 24th and 25th, but I may have to look at shifting that around once again as another state academic Olympics activity just popped up for us. So which involves the teachers as well as some of the students. So we'll see what that looks like here in a little while, but we're trying to squeeze that second round of maps testing in this spring. And as you can see, obviously just very busy between now and the next school board meeting. We have actually District Music Festival happening in Helena this Friday. So Mr. Conroy is taking the choir in the morning, and then the band will be coming back for the band in the afternoon, and they're excited to be participating in that as always. The FFA end of year banquet is on the 17th. That's next Monday. April 21st is quarter four, mid-quarter. The 24th and 25th, we have the high school state academic Olympics team headed to Missoula. They qualified a couple of weeks ago, so they're excited to take that to the next level. As we all know, prom is on the 29th, and we'll end the April with that. May 1st, as everybody's talked about, we have our concerts May 1st and May 4th. May 5th, donkey basketball. Do not forget to show up on Friday, May 5th, the Cinco de Mayo. There's dinner, donkey basketball. We'll be rolling out additional information on that. There are some flyers posted in all the social media places and on the website for all of that. So come join the fun. It should be great. May 5th and 6th, also, we have State Music Festival at Missoula. And then May 8th and 9th, we are hoping for divisional golf at Eureka. I think some golfing happened here today, last I heard. Everything else so far, everywhere else has been canceled up to this point, but hopefully our poor golfers will get on a course somewhere and get to swing their clubs, so. Busy month.
They'd had to swing really hard today.
I know. I asked Pete, I said, is that really happening today? He goes, yep. I was like, all right. So I haven't heard back how they did. It was a JV meet, so we'll see how they did.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Heather?
Okay, so first off, I just wanted to remind everybody that spring adult ed courses have started, and there's some really awesome stuff. I would like to be at some of these nights, so we have a lot of things going on at the school, but I'm hoping to get to join some of the adult ed courses we have coming up. There's a lot of really cool stuff. Personally, looking at the cast iron cooking class, and going to try to get to the pottery class as much as I can. And so excellent gardening. We have had incredible numbers and turnout, packed adult ed courses, and just been excited to have the community involved and showing up for those. And I'm really thankful for Terry putting all of that together and all the amazing instructors from our community and a couple from neighboring communities step forward for those programs. So check it out on the website. It's under adult education on the menu. It's under education and then Old Baldy adult education. And you can sign up right there on the website or up front with Wanda if you do not want to do it digitally. So check those out. They're starting. There's lots of cool things. For enrollment, Mrs. Hartman already talked about our enrollment that has been increasing. We obviously have pretty big numbers, elementary and middle school. And then in the high school, Mrs. Heverin and I are working with her staff and looking at different ideas and opportunities, like we talked about for dual enrollment and maybe some other potentials for the future so that we can maintain that high school enrollment and provide those opportunities for our students. So we will keep monitoring numbers, and therefore that leads me into vacancies and staffing. So we do have positions posted on the OPI website and some posted internally. We have high school science broadfield posted. We have a K-8 middle school teaching position, possibly 2 posted. We have a first grade teacher and a 4th grade teacher posted, head wrestling coach, driver's education instructor for the summer. We're always needing custodians, bus drivers, and substitutes. We also have fall and winter cheerleading, and we have tennis for next year. Not tennis, sorry, golf. That's what I meant. Golf for next year. And so wanted to make sure that we noted those, and those are posted. We are advertising on Indeed and OPI, and then internally and locally. I will be getting that information out as much as possible. And we've got interviews underway already. So we'll make sure we're staffed up. It can be tricky when we don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, the kindergarten numbers changed within 1 week. We had 15 more, right, walk in. So we we try to keep a close eye and make sure that we're staffed appropriately. And on top of it, when right now's peak time for contracting, as you saw, we were renewing our staff tonight. Just wanted to make a quick note on budget. We will finish the year out. We're projected to finish the year out within budget. We did receive funding later in the school year for our large increase in enrollment due to our COVID growth. And so we will make it out with being balanced at the end of the year. We will not have a large surplus or anything like that. Obviously, with the new classrooms and the additional teachers we hired for the additional students and all the additional needs we had to buy, bookcases and set up new classrooms and get additional sets of curriculum for additional sections of those grade levels that we've only had 3 kindergartens before. This year we had 4, those kinds of things. So we'll be in good shape. We obviously have other funding sources that we can use as necessary or needed, but we try to stick within our planned budget, and we're able to do that this year with our increased enrollment funding. And we're working on spending down our last ESSER funding. Our ESSER 3 funding is going to be wrapping up over this next year, and we're closing out that expenditure. A lot of districts are having a hard time with funding, and I'm sure you've seen it throughout the state and other COVID relief funding. There were a lot of things put in place, and people hired and all of that, and then those funds have dwindled, and a lot of districts are completely out. We've tried to make ours last and be good stewards with that funding, but it does have to be closed out soon. So, we were careful not to we're planning for next year accordingly, and trying to be savvy, as well as understanding that we have these increased needs and growth that continues. So just wanted to give a quick update on where we are with the budget and staffing. That's all I have.
Questions? For the special meeting kicked out as quickly as we can once we're able to confirm the availability of that survey data. And we'll get that to you. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.